Oh gosh, yeah. It's not as strong as lobelia inflata. But this is the, and lobelia has this kind of neat flower to it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't taste, it tastes just fine. And I don't know, you know, I haven't used this one, and Lori was asking about it in class on Wednesday, but I just wanted to look at it. So the lobelias are the muscle relaxants. This one doesn't have an acrid taste. So lobelia inflata tastes like you just put tobacco in your mouth, and it's awful, and it makes you gag in just one leaf. And this isn't doing it. So I don't know how relaxant this one is, but it's kind of a curious plant. It grows more readily than the lobelia inflata, but it's probably not as strong just by the taste of it. So you're welcome to taste this.
You taste the flower, or did you say leaf?
The leaf. But it's not, it's more flowery. Yeah. For that. So a wetland environment, lots of asters. This is sow thistle, and it's not used in medicine, but it's a carton of dandelion. Oh, this one.
This one.
This one, does anyone know this one? We will talk about it for, and you can smell it, and it has, when it's dried, it has a bigger smell of vanilla, and that is the smell of vanilla.
Power suggestion.
Oh, possibly, but it has, but when you dry it, it really smells like that. And that smell of vanilla shows you that there's coumarins in it, which means that it has blood thinners. And this plant has really high levels of coumarins in it, and so it was used to thin the blood. And there's kind of a story in herbalism, and no one knows exactly if it's true because the documentation isn't perfect on it. But you can really smell that.
What's it called again?
It's sweet melilot.
Sweet mellock?
Sweet melilot.
Okay.
M-E, smell a lot.
The yellow one.
Sweet mellock.
Yeah, the yellow one doesn't belong in it. And this is really common. It's in the clover family. And so when they would make it into hay, so this is the story, which I don't know where the documentation is. When it would ferment into hay, the coumarins would come out, and then they had cows and livestock bleeding out because it thinned their blood so much.
Oh.
And so they found, so the coumarins in this led them to study that, and supposedly this is like the plant that coumadin was eventually made, like the chemicals in it. So it's just really high. Oh, that one smells more, when I ripped it, more like that, the vanilla, like the vanilla scent.
What is the name of it?
Sweet melilot. And this one is white, so it's Melilotus alba.
How do you spell that? E-L?
M-E-L-L-I-L-O-T. Melilot. But it's in the clover family. And, you know, we don't use a lot of blood thinners in herbal medicine anymore, just because people that need blood thinners are on blood thinners.
Right.
But it's a good thing to know, like we don't give extra.
And very expensive.
Yes.
It's almost criminal what they charge for it.
Yes. So just kind of an interesting plant. It has a kind of a fun story. It grows everywhere. It grows up in sidewalks. It grows all around town. And then we have the aster.
That's aster.
And asters, the only thing I know of, and it's used for asthma. And I haven't used it that way. And it's an antispasmodic, supposedly, and they can be kind of resinous to the touch. And I never like eating that. I don't know why I don't like eating with that. Oh, and cattails. So they're, so cattails are one of, like, worldwide, one of the most sacred plants in all indigenous cultures. And there's one person that spent 25 years studying the relationship of people with cattails. And what's really fascinating is that even this fluff here, they're used all over the world for housing. But this fluff here, what's really fascinating is it can sit in the bog and not rot. It's completely antimicrobial. And so they use it as a wound dressing. Oh, hi. It was used as putting into wounds and as a wound dressing because it won't ever grow bacteria on it. And they don't exactly know why, but if you think about it, like even when they're in the water, they don't decompose down. And it's just kind of they used it a lot for wound dressing, and it doesn't cause any skin irritation, and it doesn't grow bacteria. And so even though it's sitting here in this gross bog, it won't actually grow the bacteria and rot.
So you're trying to use it for like a Band-Aid almost, or like
or they would pack wounds with it, and so it'd be antimicrobial. And the roots are edible, but cattails actually pull up and clean the water, and so you don't harvest it for food except in a perfect lake, because it will actually take all of the heavy metals and all that stuff into the root and clean up the water, which not many plants do that. So don't eat cattails in the city.
If I was an animal, I'd use it for nesting.
Yeah, animals can use it for nesting, but you can see how it's like, it's not quite gauze, but like you could pack wounds with it and the wound would not get infected.
It probably helps with farting.
Yeah, possibly, yeah. Yeah. Probably, yeah, kind of like gauze. Yeah, so it's the reeds are used in, it is kind of cool. I mean, like, it's at this, I don't use it for wounds, but that's one of the uses for cattails. And it's the pollen of cattails, and I don't know exactly what's in the pollen, but it was like a really sacred pollen was used for offerings, and even the Hopi in the middle of the desert would have like a little vase of water to have like one cattail plant because it was so sacred to collect pollen and use it as an offering. So these are the invasive species. They're called Typha lanceolata, so they're a little smaller. What's supposed to be here is a big fat cattail. That's the native one, and that's Typha, Typha, something else. Not the latifolia, but so we have an invasive species now here. But
So would they be as effective as they have some?
they're the same, yeah, similar. But people like the non-invasive species because they're big, and people are missing, and we just have smaller cattails now. You can see how thin they are before they go with their fuzz.
Oh yeah.
And the ones that were here even 20 years ago were big cattails that were fat. So, yeah. Okay, I gotta see someone. So feel this. See how much resin is on these buds.
Oh wow.
And smell it. The buds on this. Look at how much resin is put on these. This is like.
Ooh, wish I wouldn't have done that.
This is balsam poplar, and it's a cousin of cottonwood. And it has more smell.
No, this is true. Oh my God.
Way more smell. And so this is balsam poplar.
Mistake.
Yeah.
Awesome poplar.
So balsam poplar. Yeah. And this, So the resin on these buds, and you can see that it's just like at this time of year, they start producing it to get them through the winter and to protect the buds for the winter. And this is what bees make propolis out of. They come up and they scratch off this resin, and that is what propolis, these resins are what propolis. So the bees will come and use it as an antimicrobial for their hives and seal up their hives. And bees also use these resins to mummify like mice that come into their hives and things like that. And these resins were actually, the balsam poplar, they could also be used for, they're completely 100% antimicrobial. So you can put it on any type of wound that is infected, and it's really sticky, these resins. So if you're making a tincture with them, you need to do 90 proof alcohol, and it will come out. And you can use it just like propolis. And some people say it's almost better because bees also can go into tar and use. Bees can also collect tar and stuff when they're tarring the road, and so some people say that there might be tar in propolis. So this is almost better because it's actually right off the plant, and it's so sticky, and so it is. And so you can, but like if you had an infected tooth, you could just eat one of these and like put it on top, and put it on that tooth, that infection, and it will take down the bacteria load. And of course, you don't want to collect too many buds because this is next year's leaf. But and now this time of year, it is so much more than in the spring.
It is. It's amazing.
Isn't that the coolest? I mean, it is like all over my finger. Like they are producing more resin right now, and they will just be pumping it out.
How do you recognize this tree? What gives it away?
The buds for me, because I'm looking at the buds, but it's just juicy with resin. It's absolutely
nutritious too, huh?
nutritious. And so propolis is what I use. Propolis and these resins is what I use. You know, a lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm going to take echinacea every day to not get sick." This will kill everything in your mouth, anything that you were exposed to. Like, and you can take the tincture, or you can chew on a bud. But this will actually clean out. It's not like an antibiotic where it just kills everything. It actually balances the microflora, but also gets rid of viruses in the mouth, things like that. And topically, not only is it antibacterial, I can put it on my hand here. Topically, not only is it antibacterial, the hands are so full. It's not only antibacterial, but it's anti-inflammatory. So they make oils. You can make oils with the buds, and you can use it for arthritis and pain, like anywhere in the body. And the buds, you heat them up, you collect them. I usually do it from like a fallen limb from a storm, but you can take these buds and heat them for like an hour in oil, and then make a salve or an oil, and it's totally anti-inflammatory. It's just a lovely, and propolis is also anti-inflammatory, but just a feeling in my mouth right now is really fun.
It's a diffuser too, isn't it?
Yeah. You can feel that, right?
Yeah.
And the taste is so fantastic.
Is it?
Yeah, it's fantastic. I don't know. I mean, it's stuck to my teeth, but
And so the leaves are like a more elongated kind of
yes, than the cottonwood.
cottonwood leaf.
Yeah.
But it's that kind of rounded.
And you know, it's the gray bark. This is a young tree, which is nice because you can reach the buds, because you know these get really, really tall, and the cottonwood gets really, really tall, and you only can collect from downed trees. But the balsam poplar, and sometimes like in the forest, like up north, because it grows. I mean, it grows all the way up north too. Sometimes like at like Chattahoochee State Park or those state parks up there, you can just smell them when you walk in the woods, like after the rain, because of the resins. You can just smell this like wonderful balsam smell to it, and it has like a richer scent to it. And you can tell. That's how you can also be like, oh, I need to look for some balsam poplar.
When you're making a salve, can you just cook up heat coconut oil and then throw
Yeah.
like these buds in there?
Yeah, but you don't want to. You don't want to. You can do coconut oil. I mean, I do grapeseed oil because it's. But you can just throw the buds in. You just cover them with the oil. So however much you're making, and you just put the buds in. You cover it with oil, and you have it on low heat. You can put it in a crock pot at low heat, or I mean the stove. Sometimes, depending on your stove, can be low heat. Then you have it sit there for an hour, and the resins will come out in the oil, and then you can. Then strain out the buds and put in some beeswax, and then you have a nice salve that you can put on it.
And then clean the crock pot. Right?
I was just thinking if you could clean the crock pot real great.
I have. This is my third ride because I did cottonwood this summer. I have one cottonwood tree on Lake Harriet. Harriet Island. Gives me her buds. She just, but you have to clean the resin. I mean, I've got the resin.
Oh.
It's the resin that's so.
A lot of alcohol, huh?
Yeah, the oil is hard in of itself, but then the resin is like, so you have to kind of dedicate a pot to it.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
I mean, vinegar doesn't do it, and but just like, and my teeth are going to be yellow today, so that'll be fine. It's hard to get it off the teeth too. But it's beautiful.
Oh, it's so.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So this is Salix alba tristis. And so this is the white willow that is used. This is the common variety we use in medicine. And I don't know if I'll be able to taste anything after.
No, it won't be.
We're getting there.
Spring too.
Yeah, we harvested off this tree, and we didn't harm it. It's fine. We harvested a lot from this tree. We walked out of here with like tons.
Made a bunch of saps.
Did you?
Yeah.
And they work. This tree is my favorite. This is the tree I like for harvesting. And I don't know if I can taste the willow after the resin, but you'll see. We tasted the sand willow, and this one, I think, when I'm tasting it, it's almost ready.
This is for headaches, huh?
Headaches too, yes. This one tastes stronger, right?
Yeah.
So when you're tasting for medicine, you can almost taste it. I have so much resin in my mouth. Oh yeah.
And it's still medicinal even this time of year.
Yeah, it's medicinal, but it'll get more when it turns yellow. This will even taste stronger. And so like a lot of times they say just harvest barks in the spring, but you can harvest barks in the fall. And I'm often like, oh no, I don't have that. I better go get it. It's gonna be winter time. I need my herbs. I don't want to buy stuff. So this can be used topically as a poultice, topically as an alcohol. You can put it into oils, the bark of it. And I haven't made a glycerite with it, but it's headaches, inflammation anywhere in the body, and just pain in general. It's I usually mix it with other anti-inflammatories, but it's just a really easy. And there's tons of these willow trees everywhere, and no need to buy it.
You just shave a bunch of it and then put the alcohol in it, huh?
And you can feel it. Like I dry it, and then if I have like pain or something, I can just make a tea with it. Like decoct it for like 15 minutes in warm water, and then you can just take like a rag and put it on like parts of the body, and it will like take down the inflammation and pain. It's fantastic. about willow is that you don't really harm the tree by harvesting because it just grows back. So like even like the cuts we made, the cuts we made, the string, someone cut off right there. It like grows more, and you can cut willows down to the ground, and they will come back up. So it doesn't harm the tree necessarily. And they also, the dried bark is a rooting compound. So if you have a plant in your house that is having trouble like getting to root in a pot or isn't growing well, you can just make a tea with the bark and then pour that into your plant, and it will like root better and like totally start growing again. And if you were trying to get something to root, like elderberry sticks or other things, you just put them in willow water and it will make it root. So it has a rooting compound in it. Really helps plants, indoor plants, outdoor plants. Bark, yeah.
So is it better to wait to harvest it then?
You could harvest it now. It will get stronger, but I mean, I can't totally taste it, but it does taste strong. If it tastes strong, you're probably okay. It's gonna have that medicine in it, and it doesn't quite numb everything, but no, it's just a fantastic, easy plant that is abundant in our area. It's such a beautiful tree.
Big bark. This is white willow, you said.
Yes,
And that as opposed to sand willow.
yes. The sand willow we tasted before you arrived, and it doesn't have that piece. So like tasting your barks before you harvest.
Okay, bark meaning this kind of bark. Now. You pick it up here.
This is smaller, so these are too hard for me to do. So if I had some of these, I would just take the leaves off and then cut that, and then the bark.
You peel.
You peel, and actually willows, especially in the spring and fall, it's not quite. You can actually just strip it off. Like you don't even need a knife for most of them. They like slip. It slips like right off the stem, and
That's the bark you use for potting too?
yeah.
And you just can make an infusion of it or whatever?
Yep.
If you can.
Can you stick it in the ground with the plant?
Yeah, you can. You can
Oh.
actually. And if you've ever had like pussy willows in a vase, and then they start rooting off the bottom,
Oh, wow.
and that is because they have, yeah, it's because of this rooting compound it contains. Yeah, so it's a cool trick, and see, it's an old trick for people that used to do rooting in like greenhouses for different plants.
So, what about pussy willow as medicine?
It's, you taste it. I think that they taste a little less like aspirin. There's just kind of a bright note to the alba,
Very much.
and there's a more bitter note to the pussy willow. I'm sure it has that anti-inflammatory properties, but like this one tastes. This one amazing. This tastes. So when I harvest medicine, I'm always tasting it before I bring it home and harvest it.
Dead bark.
Dead doesn't work.
Okay.
Oh, I know you're trying. You're like, I'm gonna try not to hurt the tree. Do you want a clipper?
Sure. Thank you.
But this is a cooling anti-inflammatory, so it just cools off all the tissues. Yeah. Good first aid herb. I have so much resin in my mouth.
On my
Oh, you
teeth
have your
too.
microphone today. Hopefully it comes.
I do have it. But
Oh, okay.
it's sounding okay.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
All these things that are growing in our environment.
I did my assignment, but I let you know that I used artificial intelligence.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I cheated.
I'm supposed to get down on you for that, but
Yeah, I'm auditing. That's what I say. I'm auditing. This isn't a grade thing.
you know what?
But I wanted to know if it would work good,
Oh yeah.
and then how it would turn out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. artificial intelligence, there are some herb books that are completely written out of artificial intelligence. Like people are trying to figure out, like people are writing full herb books with artificial intelligence.
It might,
Yeah.
it might be good.
Which is good or bad?
Well, they can
don't
all
know.
source all over the place and
so the accuracy
think
may
about
be-
it.
What must they
Yeah.
put on the author's page?
Yeah.
Author bio?
Yeah.
Created by Gemini.
Oh, right. The source may not be a thing.
Oh no, they source it. I used artificial intelligence. And they told me all the sources and put it in footnotes.
So you said like the thinner parts, you could just take the leaves off.
Yeah, take the leaves off, and then just chop it up because it's hard. It's hard to get the.
Yeah.
It's hard to get the.
Right.
When it's so thin, it's hard to get the bark off. So, and there's so much little wood. It just, yeah. So, yeah. Yeah.
Can you use that?
Yeah. This plant here is usually the first plant that comes up in the spring everywhere, and it's motherwort, and it goes to flower and seed, and then it comes and it grows again in the fall and doesn't go to flower, which is good because this is a good time to harvest motherwort, because if you harvest these with the seed heads, it really hurts. If you are chopping it up and putting it into tincture, it's really pointy and spiky, and so I tend to go for the newer growth that doesn't have those spikes on it. And this is an extreme bitter plant. I don't even want to taste it, but I will. Leonaris cardiaca,
Gotta be good for the heart.
and it is for atrial fibrillation, and it also gets rid of tachycardia and any kind of excess racing of the heart. It's used for. It's extremely bitter. It's also used. It was used for osteopenia and osteoporosis back in the 19th century because it helps your body pick up calcium. And so as people age, they do lose bone mass, but they also, the digestive system can get perked up and take in more nutrition and nutrients. So I put it into teas. It's so bitter though. It also just tasting it, because it's so bitter. My stomach is going, my stomach is are we going to eat now? What's happening? And so it turns on our digestive system and puts us into the parasympathetic system, where it's rest, digest. So it calms everything down, but it has has been known for a long time to be specifically calming down for the heart. It's an interesting plant, and but these bitter, and it's also nerving, but these bitter plants are really good for the tension tissue state, the wind tension tissue state that we've been talking about. These bitter plants, which don't taste great to everyone, are really good for it. Here is ground ivy. So this is a European transplant from colonization. What we see in our parks here in Minneapolis is the plants that came on the Mayflower and with colonization. So this came on the Mayflower.
Is that motherwort that went
Yeah,
in this fish?
motherwort.
Okay.
Yep, motherwort. Dandelion came on the Mayflower. These are the things that people brought over here as medicine, and it's taken over. Burdock, which is right here, came over that way. And ground ivy also came over that way, and that's also called Creeping Charlie.
Okay.
And it's a kidney remedy, which is kind of funny because it kind of looks like a little kidney. The leaf does. And
They have nice flowers too.
yeah, lots of blue flowers on it.
Pretty. Distinct smell.
It has a metallic smell to it.
So what do you use?
So this is how you get rid of constant ear infections in children. It will actually stop that cycle of ear infections. And I don't know how that works, but it does. like kids, kids that have like chronic ear infections. This will clear out the ears and stop that tendency to ear infections. So so people that are like, oh, I have to get tubes in my kids' ears, like I would have them try this first.
So how would you use it?
So you can put it dried leaf in tea with it doesn't taste great, but you can also put it in tincture form. So you can put tincture under the tongue. It has to be internal. I haven't tried it just externally, but yeah. And I usually harvest it while in flower. But if you know someone whose kid gets ear infections, you can harvest it now. If you know how to prepare.
Is it in flower in spring?
It's May.
May.
Yeah. It's a nice brown color.
Yeah, it is.
This is yellow dock, and I'm gonna find a different one for us. Not on this.
Yeah, look, here she goes on top of that.
Oh. Yeah, some of her territory too.
She always got some
This is no, how come I forgot the name right when I did this? This is celandine.
Oh yeah.
Celandine poppy, or it's called wood poppy, and it has this yellow sap, which is kind of interesting. It was used for jaundice.
Oh. Wow.
Which is funny. Yeah, it was used for jaundice all throughout. And there's another one that was brought over from Europe. But it's a celandine poppy. It has a little yellow flower, and you can't really see it here. It's kind of like mixed up.
Flowers.
But it has this like yellow flower and these little seed heads, and it is in the poppy family. But yeah, it's also used for
Checking it out.
they called like liver headaches, which are like tension headaches, like on the side, like on the temples. It's used for that as well.
Okay, so it's the sap actually?
Yeah, I'm just showing you the sap, but
Okay.
that's how you can tell it's celandine.
It's what?
That's how you can tell you have the right plant, like it's
Oh,
celandine, because it will have this like, and then you can write your name on your hand or whatever, tattoo yourself, whatever you want to do.
What is the name again?
Celandine, Celandine. And then next to it, so this is actually where I got my start in herbalism. Were these little red berries. And I poisoned my daycare when I was 2. And I fed everyone these beautiful red berries. I was made like a little mash, and we all ended up in the emergency rooms and got our stomachs pumped. And then I got interviewed on Channel 5 as a 2-year-old with the whole daycare. And I had these cute little blonde pigtails, and they said, "Did you feed the children the red berries?" And I said, "No." Like on television as a 2-year-old. My mom's like, "You lied on television?"
Not all PR is good on PR.
I was like, "Why wouldn't I, Mom?" Like at 2, of course I'm gonna say no. No.
Why are you asking me that?
Why are you asking me that? As I've just been like puking, and they put charcoal in our. They made us puke, and then they put charcoal in our stomachs.
But that student's going to be suspended.
So what kind of plant is it?
So this is not it. This is white vervain, and it's wrapped around it. So it's a vine, and this is nightshade. So this is a cousin of tomato, and there's and it's also called belladonna.
Oh, okay.
And so people would use the berries in this plant.
It's a hallucinogenic, right?
Yeah, it can be. But it was used. They use the atropine in our eyes when they do an eye exam, and that comes from. So this is atropa, and it contains atropine, and so they used to use it for beauty because it like makes blood flow and then it dilates the eyes, and like the dilation of the eyes was seen as something beautiful. And actually, when you fall in love with somebody, your eyes dilate, which is why you see more red, and which is why the whole thing is like totally fantastic and interesting. But
Name of the plant again?
belladonna, there's it's a nightshade. It's a
Bill Wilson, who started Alcoholics Anonymous, he had a spiritual experience on belladonna, and he writes about it. In a treatment center, they gave him belladonna.
yeah, and then he he got out of Alcoholics Anonymous and then started doing mushrooms and telling people.
No, he was still in AA.
He was still in AA.
Yeah,
Oh, he
and it was LSD.
It was LSD. Yeah, and he was like, why do all these meetings? Just take.
Yeah, they set him up pretty quickly.
They shut him up real quick.
Stevie next to, she has this album called Belladonna, I think.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's not try it.
Yeah, we're not going to try
No,
it. But it also was used, this was one of the main plants. This was the first plant that Samuel Hahnemann, the creator of homeopathy, used. And so he knew it was poisonous, but it was used for scarlet fever. And so strep throat and all of that. And this is the main homeopathic remedy for strep throat. And so people used to give poisonous plants to kids when they had strep throat because they didn't have antibiotics. And this was the one that was used, and so he actually developed the whole homeopathic system because as a way to not have the chemicals and poison, but get the effect of it, the energy from it. So this was one of his first. Belladonna was one of his first remedies, and they would use it for fevers and scarlet fever in children. So kind of an interesting. And I don't do anything with it. I don't harvest it.
not since
Not since I learned my lesson. I don't need to be on Channel 5.
And you survive.
And I survived.
Everybody survived.
Yes, false Solomon seal. This is false Solomon seal. It has a red berries on the end. Solomon seal has blueberries along. And false Solomon seal, the root of that one, I use for tendinitis arthritis in there. It's totally anti-inflammatory. And so look at the black walnut. There's like someone collected them and just put in a little patch.
Let's grab some.
Recording. Actually, I had the funniest story from a friend last night. I was in class, in break. We were sharing squirrel stories. Because one of the things had collected some black walnuts and put them in their garage, and the squirrels like trying to get in the garage. I was like, I think we need to take them out of the garage. I'll talk about false Solomon seal in a second. I was like, where's the stash over there? The squirrels are not getting it. But I was talking to my friend last night about squirrel stories, and then he had a story that he collected these to make a dye for painting because it has iodine in it. So it has a really like if I crush this open, it's going to stain my hands, and it's going to stain them for at least a week, if not more. And you'll see the little squirrels with their little black faces because they've been digging into these, and they'll have like a little like coloring to them.
But you can't get to that dye yourself because you're not strong enough.
Oh, I can. Well, it's inside this hull. So
Oh.
So the dye.
I thought it was inside the hard nut.
No, the dye is in here. Sometimes there's worms in there. But the dye, this will turn black, and that's where the iodine is. And this is also where the medicine is. And you can smell.
I know we talked about it last week, but what is it?
It is antifungal. It's obviously not anti-worms. There's worms in there. There's always worms in there.
So do you just cut that green part and use the inside?
You cut the black away? Is that what
You
you're saying?
cut. No, you use this hull. So you see how it's turning color now?
Yeah.
The green.
The green is going to turn black. And it will turn my skin black eventually. But this is antifungal, so you can make this. You can cut this up and put it into a salve. And I usually use it green. And you put it into a salve.
Okay.
And then so oil. Put it into oil, and then make it into a salve. And this gets rid of toe fungus.
Oh.
It is completely anti-yeast. So if someone has kind of yeast infection or any type of overgrowth of yeast in their colon or anything like that, or it's also used, I make a tincture with this. I just put this part in alcohol, and it's used for thrush in general in babies. And this is how I got, my daughter is very yeasty. And she still is. We still are using anti-yeast stuff on her skin. She just seems to grow yeast. I don't know. And she did as a baby. My son didn't have that problem, and so she grew, her mouth grew all that yeast, all that thrush, and transferred it to my body. And I got rid of it in one day in her mouth and on my body.
And so how did you do it?
Tincture, alcohol.
You use alcohol. And soak it in alcohol
For 6 weeks.
6 weeks is that fine?
So I put it in brandy for 6 weeks.
I just put the whole thing in.
You can do that. You can do that. You can do that.
yeah.
Yes, you can do that too.
Like, do you cut it and then put the whole thing in there?
I tend to cut it, but
So
just
you
the
don't
green
have
off.
to use gloves or whatever?
I do have to use gloves. Yes. Otherwise I have black hands. For a week.
But the black stuff spoiled. You're trying to get rid of that.
Yeah.
Or is
I
that
might-
message just
no, for
enough
this
you put the
one,
whole thing? Yeah.
I might for this one. I might just go for the parts that are not black yet, because this looks like worm infested, and I just tend to
So you really want the green
you want the green,
flesh.
the flesh.
flesh.
And you can use it topical for athlete's foot, toe fungus. You can use it topical for thrush, yeast. It's a lovely, lovely thing. It doesn't have to be the whole, and I'm trying to look, here's the tree here. You can use, it's not a healthy tree, but you can use, it's kind of, the tree is actually here, it's over there. But the leaves are also antifungal, and that's almost better in some ways for internal yeast. And then it doesn't get the stain and things like that. It is also a remedy for hypothyroid. It is one of the main remedies to boost up the thyroid and thyroid function. And you can use it with thyroid medications. And this is the one I used with countless people because I was working with a doctor and I lived out in the woods. And I worked with this doctor in Baroka, Wisconsin, and he would send me all of his hypothyroid people. And he would monitor their thyroid levels with their medication. And we brought people down on, if they were at 0.75 micrograms, we could get down to 0.25 and then almost to 0. So, and he would monitor that. And so I mix it with chickweed and eleuthero and some other things. I have a formula for hypothyroid, but it's really fantastic.
Okay, and you make a tea. Dry leaf,
I make a tincture.
make a tincture with alcohol.
I do. I know everything. I know. It's just easy for people to do the drops. It's just easy. Just easy. I know my daughter's friends are always like, I love your house. There's brandy everywhere. I love your house. There's brandy on every countertop.
Do you have a problem?
Yeah.
I love it even more as years go by.
Yeah. And here it is. I'll talk about. Well, it's not too much. So this is called Solomon's seal. It looks like Solomon's seal when you don't have it, but it kind of doesn't look like Solomon's seal. So definitely for tendonitis, carpal tunnel, topically, it totally takes down the inflammation. Anything in the hands, any tendons in the hands and feet, any arthritis there, I use it for.
So I know someone who has rheumatoid arthritis, and it sometimes will manifest in her finger.
This is helpful for the pain. It's anti-inflammatory and topically.
So you put it topically. So
Yeah.
you create a tea or
You can either anything, tea, tincture, oil,
just to have it on it. And
just have it on it.
Okay, so what would be the thing we need formula? Once a day, twice a day. How long do you have it on?
So when people have chronic pain like that and it flares up, because I have rheumatoid arthritis too, and I'll put it on, and usually sometimes it's I'll put it on and it's not quite doing it. I'll put it on again. I'll put it on again, and then I can run for 3 hours, or my body
As needed.
As needed. It's as needed topically. You can put it on as much as you want.
Okay.
Yeah, and it doesn't cause any type of
The
thing.
root that we like.
Yeah, it's the root. The root is smaller, so it looks like a Solomon seal, but it's just a little thinner, and it's yellow instead of being white. Yeah, it's a beautiful plant. And then when I was studying with the Lakota, they said it's an invisibility medicine, and I was like, what does that mean?
Right.
That perked my ears, and I was like, what does it mean? Invisibility means it can be invisible? And they were like, no, if you just don't want to be any attention on you, just put a false Solomon seal root in your pocket, and go, and I was like, oh, I gotta test this, right? Like if someone tells me that, I'm like, well, I won't. And so I used it to sneak into someone's apartment building.
That doesn't sound good.
It worked.
My life.
Well, I was like, let's test this, like really test it. And so like the apartment building was one of those where you had to have a key code and call them, and then they buzz you in. And I put false solemnity in my pocket. I'm like, I'm gonna get in and I'm gonna leave this gift at their door, just to like surprise them. And then I came to the building. I had it in my pocket. The door was left open because of a person working in the building. So I walked in. There was a key code to the elevator. Someone brought the elevator to their floor. I left my jar of honey, and then I got back onto the elevator because you could go down, but I didn't have like the key code to like get out the door. And then someone opened it up on the way down. So anyway, and then I walked out. No one asked me a question, and I was like, maybe that was working.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how that
Maybe.
works. Like you can just be invisible and just like go through.
Wow.
Doors open. Like,
I like that.
you can just like sneak in. I was like, oh, this is good for us sneaky folks. Like, this is a good trick. I haven't really played around with it since then, but I think too. They also said like if you're wild harvesting where you're not supposed to, and I was like, well, whatever. You could like just not get attention. So yeah, that's kind of a funny story, but it always intrigues me when I get another.
Do you need like a shovel to?
Yeah, it's pretty
Spade.
low. It's pretty low in there. So you can actually probably do. It's pretty close to the surface. It runs around. It runs on the surface. So you can dig it out with this.
So I have a lot of beautiful Solomon seal growing in a place where there's poison ivy also.
Oh,
So what do you think? Do you think that's, what do you think?
it's not parasitic. It won't get it on it. You just can't. You can't. Well, I mean, it's just harder to harvest.
Right. No, yeah,
I think it's fine now.
Yeah.
As a medicine. Yeah.
Keep people away from it.
I know, right?
Yeah. It's keeping people away.
And what about the tiny Solomon seal?
Oh yeah.
I just said tiny because I don't know exactly. For a while I thought that was called Solomon seal, but that isn't, is it?
That's a different one. Yeah. That one I know nothing about. This is always my favorite. Squeeze. What is this called? I feel like we read about this. This is jewelweed or impatience.
Jewelweed, that's what it is.
And it's called impatience because the seed is low. It's pretty. And this is like, yeah, I always have my bird, I have my kids collect a lot of this stuff because when I had a parakeet, my parakeet loved these seeds. And it should explode. I'm trying to find a bigger one for you. You need the bigger seeds. Yeah, you can
It's a seed that you're
Yeah.
looking for?
Yeah, and I'm looking for a big one for you because those are the ones that explode.
Oh,
so
yeah.
if you pinch them, they explode. Oh, here's one.
That's ready?
Oh, it did it.
They're so fun. This is like the best fun with kids. This is the best fun with kids. Like they love pop. My kids love pop.
You just did.
Yeah, isn't that fun? I just think they're the funnest. So it's called impatience. It is a great. Lots of birds love these seeds. So they're good bird food. The grosbeaks will go and they'll be popping them all over the place, and it's a watery plant. And this is that remedy for poison ivy. You can like just take it and rub the poison ivy off. It's not my favorite remedy, but it's a good one. And if you want to clean your hands, if you're in the woods, you can actually use it. It gets a little dry this time of year.
Orange flowers?
Orange flowers and yellow.
And what's the name of it again?
Impatience or jewelry. And this will have water in it, and it's so you can just like wash off things out of your hands. It's not taking off the resin. I'm trying. It has some soapy properties to it. It has like actual some kind of it has saponins in it that are soapy, so it can actually like clean skin. Yeah, and I've heard it. I don't use it a lot internally. I've heard it because I don't dry it or anything, but I've heard it like helps people that are impatient, and I was like, well, that's why I'm not using it.
You don't have that problem.
I don't
Thank
need
God.
never would need. But yeah, I just love these seeds, and they're yummy. They have fun. Seeds are edible.
Sumac,
This
eh?
is sumac, and this is the Rus glabra because it doesn't have the hairy. That's used just like the Rus typhina, which has hairs on the stems, and you can use the bark in the fall. Another great thing about sumac is if you're ever camping or want to start a fire and it's been rainy and all the wood is wet, this will burn wet. You can start a fire with like the old dead sumac. So you would like look for like this one here, and you can start a fire in the rain with old dead sumac, even off the plant. So that is like it's a good thing to know. Like if you find, because usually it's around patches when you're camping and stuff, and it won't smoke and all that stuff. It'll like actually start your fire. Super cool thing about it because it's so astringent. That's the berry. Yeah, that's what we did with the tea. And it has the same type of red berries. They're a little bit less berry, so you kind of tea. You can also use the bark. What's that bark? The bark is for similar things. The bark is controlling the amount of urine. So people that have urination, like excess urination or excess sweating or any type of thing, and it also stops a runny nose.
Other berries? Will that also help with sweat?
Yes. All of them help. Actually, when I make a tincture with this, I put berries and bark together. So I dry a bunch of berries in the summer, and then I put that in my tincture because it turns a beautiful red color and tastes better. Chop it up. I don't take the outer bark off. I do the full stem. The neat thing about these is you can cut them down to the ground and they will pop up again. Like you don't have to worry about harming these. And so normally in my yard I will take the younger ones and just chop them up because they, the young ones like are going all over the place. And yeah, it also has a latex in it that people have utilized and dried and utilized for making different, like a latex thing. I don't know exactly. Not waterproofing, like just stuff like they put it in salves and like things like that. I haven't utilized it. It takes a lot. I feel like milking sumac for this latex would be a lot of work, but.
When you dry the berries, do you just dry the whole
Yeah.
Like on the counter?
You can do it fresh, yeah. In a basket. I have baskets.
Oh,
like
okay.
kind of
Yeah.
And because they're so astringent, they have all those tannins, they tend to not rot. They could,
Got it.
but I tend to collect the berries after it hasn't rained for like at least 5 days, just because they do soak up, and the malic acid content is higher than too. Flower. I mean, it's dried now. It went to seed, but these grow throughout. And here, it has a beautiful little purple flower on it. And this is called self-heal.
Self-heal?
Self-heal.
I
And
think I've had the flower essence.
yeah, and this is like plantain, which is growing right next to it. It pulls things out of the skin. It can pull metal out of the skin. It can pull glass out of the skin. It can pull, and this is one of the Kiwandanokwe Anishinaabe favorite herbs for just putting on. And Prunella vulgaris is a Latin. I love the name Prunella. I just love the name Prunella. Petra was almost a Prunella. But she's
probably bland.
Yeah. She's not a prunella though. Like a prunella has like a real vibe to it.
Okay, what's the name of it?
Is called Self Heal. And so like I had a piece of glass and I think I still have shards. I had this like accident and I think I still have a shard in there. But it actually pulled a lot of the glass out of my hand. But it's because the plantain wasn't working. And then if plantain isn't working, then I go to Self Heal. I think I have a little bit more, but anyway, I should just go to the doctor and never take it out instead of experimenting on myself so much. But yeah, it has like this really great power. And in the book, Plants Have So Much to Teach Us, All We Have to Do Is Ask, by Mary Sissop Genius, who studied with Key Wandanokwe. She says that Key would put this, because it works better fresh, that she would just put it in a jar in the refrigerator in October and have it sitting in there, and it lasts because it doesn't. And I did that it didn't last. In March it started to turn brown, but it lasted for most of the winter in the refrigerator, just in a jar covered, and it didn't go moldy or anything. So that's what Key used to do. So it does work better fresh. You can take it down. You can take it down and just kind of throw the seeds off. It's the leaves. I like to see it when the flowers, and there is some that are flowering now.